All right, welcome everyone to another episode of Elbows Tight Podcast. Hey, before we get started, I've been trying to do better about this. Please give me a 5-star review wherever you're at. If you guys want to check out Elbows Tight merch, like my dad hat, I've been loving this thing, elbowtight.com, and check us out, socials everywhere, Elbows Tight. If you're watching this on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, all that fancy stuff. And with all of that, today I have a very special guest, Milton Campis, and he is one of the hosts of the Jiu-Jitsu Dummies podcast. I've actually talked to Milton a couple times in the background about some business stuff and growing the podcast, and I'm very lucky to have him on today. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. I'm starting to open up all the socials just to make sure that I am actually subscribed to everything. So if you see me looking over, I'm like, oh yeah, I tell everybody to do that for our podcast too. I gotta make sure. I mean, I just finished telling you, I mostly consume your stuff on Instagram. That's where I am.
Yeah.
So I'm over here going elbows tight.
Yeah.
Make sure I'm everywhere.
No, I appreciate that. No, I've it seems like Instagram's the best for jiu-jitsu. I have like Twitter, Facebook, and stuff like that. And like Twitter, I don't feel like jiu-jitsu Twitter is like very good, but Facebook jiu-jitsu is pretty good. But Instagram is obviously like the biggest one. Is that where you guys have the most following?
Our biggest following is Instagram, 16,000 followers there. Facebook is right behind that with 13,000.
Oh, wow.
I know one of my next guest, we've got 2 in the can that we've got to put out. One tomorrow with Rob from McDojo, and then another one with Todd Fox. Great interview. I don't know if you've spoken to him. He's great.
Oh, yeah.
You did. Yep. I think I saw your logo on his site. But what was I saying? I already lost my train of thought.
Biggest followings.
Oh, the biggest following. So I know that I've gotten the advice from my next guest, who's Jason Scully from the Grappler's Guide. He was like, he blew up on Reddit.
Oh yeah.
He's like, if you can get in with that group on Reddit, who could be really, really fucking tough.
Yes.
He's just like, you can make it anywhere. I started a Reddit page, but I just don't have the time to really you have to be engaged. And he really built himself up there in the Grappler's Guide. It's one of the pages and one of the online coaches that I always cite as helping me from white belt to now. Yeah. Jason Scully was the guy that put out a 5-minute video, maybe a 5 to 10 minute video, but it was just like 55 leg locks in 5 minutes, 20 arm bars or arm locks in 5 minutes, right? So like it just goes through it real quick. And he actually says at the beginning of the video is like, this is not a full instructional, right? This is to give you ideas, to show you things that I use. And he's like, everything I'm showing you, I've hit in either competition or training. So it's like real stuff that can work. And like when I watch it, I throw it on. Usually I throw it on before training, especially on the weekends. A cup of coffee and a banana is my meal before practice on a weekend. And I would just have it on. So you could just leave the room and come back and now he's on a new move. But it's really quick. It's like a rapid fire thing. So it's something that's really helped me. But he was the one that put me onto Reddit. And I started a Reddit page, but it didn't go anywhere. Instagram and Facebook have been the places. Instagram is the place that I'm at every single day. I'm the guy that answers it. I have my team posting now. They help me out with the posting, but I post, repost. I'm the dummy that comes up with most of the funny stuff. So that's all from this brain right here. And otherwise, I'm the guy talking to everybody. So I try to keep up with it as much as possible. It's my favorite, and it's for me. Again, I like to consume quick stuff. So 1-minute videos, quick tips, things like that. That's right up my alley.
Yeah. So you started jiu-jitsu how long ago?
This past June was 10 years.
10 years.
I started right before my 41st birthday. My birthday's on June 30th. So I always remember it's right at the end of the month. And I started right before that, like 2 weeks before that. And I just turned 51 this past June. So it's been just a little over 10 years.
How has the 10 years treated you? I know jiu-jitsu people a lot to talk about it's hard on your body and whatnot and starting later in life. How has jiu-jitsu been for you the last 10 years?
We're not going to be able to do this in a 1-hour podcast, man. Where do you want me to start? I can start at the top of my head and go all the way down to my feet if you want. Currently, I'm actually off the mat. I've been off the mat for maybe 3 going on 4 weeks.
That's tough.
So I can get by with, I have a shoulder and I've got something happening with the knee here. I could train with both of them. They're not super painful. This hurts if I lift it. So if somebody was to grab an Americana or something, but believe it or not, I love the name of the podcast. I'm always elbows tight, man. I'm always here. And if I'm injured, I'm pulling guard so I can stay really tight. And unless I get a really strong dude, he's not getting my arm above my head, or at least, I'm really trying to keep it in low. So I have a groin injury. That's the killer.
Ooh.
I don't know if you've ever had a groin injury.
I haven't, no.
I did not go to the doctor for this one. I've had it before, kind of on the right side, and you get a little pain down the leg, but it's mostly under the belly, like under your belly button, right above your junk. So to like my left, I've had it there. Just healed with being off of the mat, taking a little bit of a break, and that was just a couple of weeks the first time. I believe it's probably more of a sports hernia than like a groin injury, but it's kind of, that's all. It's all attached,
Yeah.
So I have a groin injury on the right side, which I did feel. I know exactly when I did it. I was rolling with a big dude, had this blue belt that was just freaking massively strong, probably like 10 years younger than me. I find out he was a former rugby player.
Oh, man.
And a sailor. Like he's a sailor, like pulling up like, the freaking sails on a boat. Somebody's just like, don't feel bad. He used to be a rugby player. The guy was built like a brick shithouse, man. He was just solid. You could just see that he was an athlete. And his jiu-jitsu was on point. He was a blue belt, though, and he was holding me down. So I kind of gave him I try to jump a little bit off my back, push him up, get some space to get my arms in. And I felt it right there. As soon as I did it, I just felt it. I'm like, shit, I know that's going to be a bad one.
Yeah.
So that's the one that's keeping me off the mat. My shoulder, my knee. My knee's been giving me something a little tingly once in a while, and I've got a little bit of feel I got a little liquid forming underneath my knee, so I'm gonna have to go to the doctor for that. But it doesn't. I'm not in pain. I throw on a knee brace, and I'm good. I got one of those anacondas that I highly recommended. You got to get it with the. You can get it with the little I think they're plastic straps built into it. You can get it with and without those little straps that give you extra support. I got it with it. Amazing, best ones I've ever got. I've ordered them from Amazon and lots of different places, but I put that one on and it feels like it's like a spring, man. It doesn't even
really?
You can bend it, but it makes it kick back to straight. Like it really keeps it tight. So that one is okay. And then my shoulder, I've got something going on here. I think it's an impingement. When I do certain movements, I can loosen it up and it feels better. But the groin injury is the one that's keeping me off the mat, man. Believe it or not, it's the one that you would expect. I guess I don't know. Just depends on how long you've been training. Be like, oh, that's going to be okay. I could still train. It's most guys would know. It's the one where when you sneeze and you get pain in the belly. That's the one I got. I'm just coming off. I'm at the point where when I do sneeze, it's not hurting as much. It's kind of like that's how I'm gauging whether or not it's healed. When I see if it can. If I can get through that little bit of pain or there's no pain, I'll be back on the mat. So I have gone to a friend's gym and done a little coaching one time. And my school, I go and hang out on the mats. But I just basically decided to just weight train on the times that I would normally go train. I'm like, I could go and stand on the mat and help. And that's always great. And I highly recommend that to anybody. Keep your mind in the game. But with so much going on and the nonprofit I started, Academies Safe, I've just decided to just get into weight training. I've got an awesome gym right in my building where I live. It's an incredible gym. It's got everything you need. It's actually really big. It looks like a member gym for this building, almost like a mini LA Fitness or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I just threw myself into weight training and into Academy Safe, building that out along with the other businesses in the podcast. So that's where I am right now. So it has kept me off the mat for a bit, but I'm a consumer of Jiu-Jitsu. I watch all the CJI and the ADCC, CJI first, and then I watch ADCC recorded and the last day. So man, I'm just trying to keep my head in the game. And the only thing that I love doing more than actually doing Jiu-Jitsu is talking about Jiu-Jitsu. So I'm in a good place.
Yeah. So how does it feel knowing that you're a black belt now, been training for 10 years, and having that blue belt give you a run for your money? Do you hold yourself to any of a higher or lower standard now that you're a black belt, and you have a more realistic expectation of your jiu-jitsu and understanding of what jiu-jitsu is? How do you battle, getting injured, having a tough role with someone, and then, keeping your mind level?
So after I went in the corner and cried, no, man. I mean, it's I think the Gracie say it. I think Henner says this. That whole for every 10 years, take away a belt rank. If he's 30 and I'm 50, well, give him 2 extra belt ranks, basically, right? So I'm way past that. Nobody likes to lose. It was an open mat. He wasn't even a student at the school, so it was like an open mat. He's coming from another school. I had just started at the new school because I left my old school recently. Again, part of why I'm doing Academy safe, but I went to a new school. It was my first week. I went to 2 classes during the week, and I went to the open mat on a Sunday. And again, just rolling with somebody that I didn't even know yet, but I don't know everybody anyway. Didn't even know he wasn't a student, but he didn't do anything wrong. It was just, he was strong and had good side control. It wasn't a matter of, he was kicking my ass in that moment. It was more of like, all right, I got to get out of this, but this guy is really freaking strong. And when I tried to kind of buck up and push him out, throw my hips off the ground and just gain some space, I was like, I immediately knew I was hurt. Finished out the round. That stuff doesn't bother me anymore. It's just like, again, nobody likes to lose, like I said, but I don't really look at it like that. You do have to take it. Not necessarily like, oh, you don't lose, you learn. I get that. Listen, I like what my old coach used to say, for every level, there's another level. There's always somebody out. The best guy has gotten beaten. Like the best guy has always gotten beaten. Gordon Ryan has gotten beaten in the past, right? Conor McGregor has gotten beat. He still thinks he's the best, and I think he's lost his last 2 or 3 fights, right? So, or don't quote me on that, but you get it, right? He's got some losses on his record. So you just have to think like that, and the sting usually goes away pretty quickly when you like maybe lose to somebody or tap to somebody that you normally wouldn't tap to. But even those, when a lower belt taps you and they're your friend, they're a training partner, yeah, there might be that initial like, shit, he got me. But then there's also like, yeah, man, he got me, man. Yep. Good for you, man. Shit. But I'm going to kill you on this next one, Yeah. But in all seriousness, I mean, sometimes you feel good for them. I tell this story. This is actually funny. The guy's my barber. All right, I'm going to tell a story about my barber. My barber
Hopefully it's good.
My barber and I, his name is Alex. I'm going to make sure he listens to this. My barber and I, we're really good friends now. He's been my barber for years. But way back, he had a really, really big ego. He had I had an ego, but he had a really, really bad ego. Like he just wanted to beat everybody. And if he didn't, he, get a little frustrated. So we were doing a match where we were training. It was a small class. I think it might have been like on a Friday or Saturday. Head coach wasn't there. An assistant coach was coaching. I think there was like 4 of us, and we had a pretty decent sized school. So it's like 4 of us, and we were doing a catch and release flow rolling catch and release. So literally, it's flow rolling, and if you do catch a submission, you're showing you got it, and you move on, and you move, and you give up position, right? That, a true flow roll where you never stop moving. Well, I catch and release. I get a submission. I kind of fall back. We're going. He winds up getting me in a triangle. I'm waiting for him to release, and he doesn't release. He's just freaking yanking on my head. And I'm like, what's going on here? So like, now it's a battle of egos. I'm not I could have easily just tapped, but I'm like, what is he doing? I'm like, bro, I'm in this triangle, and I'm like, you're not letting go. So I get out. I wind up falling back. He's coming. He's like, why are you all pissed off? And like, I kick him away, get up. The coach comes over. We're yelling and arguing with each other. I'm like, bro, come on, man. This, you knew that it was catch and release, but he had never tapped me. He's like 1 belt below me. He's actually a purple belt now because he's been off the mat for a little bit. But at that time, I was purple and he was blue. And he had this thing where whenever he beat somebody that he hadn't beaten, he would stand up and do a check mark in the air.
Oh my gosh.
I'm talking. He knows. Alex knows. I know if you're listening to this, Alex, you know what I'm talking about. So he used to stand up and do a check mark. So I know he wanted that so bad on me. And I guess like there was part of my ego that knew that he wanted to do that. He has since tapped me once, and I waited for him to stand up and do the check mark. And it was a long time after that. So he didn't do it. He had grown up. He'd been humbled. But in that moment, we almost got into a fight. The coach wound up. I was so angry. The guy, he left. And I was so jacked up that the coach made me, he's like, the guy that was coaching that day, made me roll with him and get it out. So he was like beating on me. Now we're rolling. He's like, get it out. Come on, get it out, get it out, get it out. And that was good for me. And I got it out. But we wound up not talking for a long time at the same gym. Coach would keep us apart, not let us roll. And then fast forward a couple of years. I mean, we started talking here and there. And then, we became friendly, and he was a barber. So he became my barber. I started going to him, and now that stuff has been buried. But, talking about egos, I mean, that can happen. I'm thinking it's his ego, and he's, not catching and releasing. And it's kind of my ego because if I tap, he's going to do the check mark.
Damn check mark.
Yeah. So So it was a thing. And, we've even had a conversation. He's like, yeah, I don't do that anymore. But, there are guys that are like that, that want to, I'm going to use my old school as an example of guys that, you let them get positioned. But there's some guys I'm just like, I'm not going to let him tap. I'm not going to let him go all the way to the tap. That's probably my ego. But it's good when, when a friend or a training partner gets you, but, be ready. And look, if you're that guy that does that, that taps that higher belt and he's your friend, we always got to remember, like, sometimes I think I've heard you talk about this. Like, if I give you position, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you tap me, you should be a little humble about it. You take it and then you go, let's go, slap bump, and you just move on. There doesn't need to be a conversation about, I got you finally. Oh man, I got you. Like, just like my coaches have given me position and I've gotten them in something, like I've gotten them in a precarious position, but there's no way I would have really passed unless they let me,
right.
a purple belt against my black belt. So you got to really understand it, and you really, really do have to be humble about that. But it takes a long time to get that out of your system. I think everybody to this day, or me, even at black belt, like, nobody wants to lose. Nobody goes to practice going, can't wait to lose today so I can learn something, right? We don't do that. We all have that ego, but it's how you handle it in the moment. And you can be thinking about it in here, but as long as you don't verbalize it or it doesn't manifest and you're doing something stupid, you'll be okay.
Yeah, so let's roll back a little bit in your jiu-jitsu journey to white belt, Milton, and saying the first time you did submit a higher belt, like talking on that humility and ego, like how have you built it over time? What were some of probably the biggest things that you remember that really honed it in that, shit, I'm nothing, man. Like, these guys are just, like you mentioned earlier, there's levels to levels. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I have a great story about that. My first coach, I trained with him for 2 years. He opened a new gym. I was basically like really his second student, but his like first student that stayed. The first student was like a woman that trained for a little bit and she left. I was wound up being his first white to blue belt at that academy. We were rolling. I had his back and I wind up getting him in a Peruvian necktie, something that we had worked on previously. So, you have him kind of, he's in a turtle. I've got him like in a seatbelt, but you can get the collar.
Mm-hmm.
If I can hold this collar from the side that I'm on and throw my legs over, right? Kind of like sitting on his back, pulling up on the lapel.
Yeah.
I believe it's called, I think some people have different names for this stuff, right? But it was a Peruvian necktie. So belt, multi-stripe white belt at the time. I was training 6 days a week, 2+ hours a day, open mats with a friendly gym that we had I really I threw myself into this like head first, and I drank the punch. He taps. I don't celebrate or anything. He was just like, oh, shit, all right, let's go. Slap bump. We kept on rolling. I was excited, but I didn't really, again, I was new to this. He was my coach. I was his main student. Sometimes we were there by ourselves, and I'm training with a black belt for 2 hours. So it didn't really dawn on me. Like, I didn't go out and celebrate and start telling anybody that I tapped my coach, but it was a good feeling. By the time I got home, I took a shower and I see on Facebook that he had wrote a long post about how proud he was that his white belt tapped him tonight.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's how you handle it, right? That's how you handle it. Not only showing his own humility, but fucking boosted me up, man. I was excited. My coaches told the world, like, I'm not allowed to tell the world that I just submitted my black belt coach.
Yeah.
But he did. And that was amazing. And I've taken that with me. Again, I think about that a lot when you try to think about humility and all the, cliche things that we say, leave your ego at the door and right. You don't lose, you learn. Those are all great. But, our mind is our mind, man. And our mind is going to do what it wants. It's this little computer that's going on in the background, still telling you, but you lost.
Yeah.
But you did tap, right? There's that little piece that tells us that. And it's, how you handle that can set you apart. And him doing that was, I thought, amazing. And even in that moment, I truly didn't understand. I was an adult. I'm a 41-year-old man at the time. And, I still over time have realized how much that impacted me on the way that I think and the way that I handle loss. I'm the first one to admit, though, I'm not going to give it to you easy. I'm not going to let a lower belt just take some, I might give you position, but, I may let you start on my back, but I'm not going to let you just choke me. I'm going to give you a tough time. I have a buddy named Drew Phoenix down here. He runs A&M Jiu-Jitsu in Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, I've talked to Drew.
Yeah, he's awesome dude. Love him. He's co-hosted a little bit here and there over the years with me and been a multi-time guest. Former Marine. We had a conversation. He had posted something one time, and it said, he was telling his higher belts to, what was the word? He was basically like telling to kick the lower belts' asses. Technically, he didn't use those terms. I forget exactly how he said it, but you should be beating the crap out of them. But then he added in the words technically. And then like the next time he was on the show, because I commented, I'm like, because I'm always just like, hey, the new guy, you got to get him in and you got to put your arm around him and make sure that they know they are going to get beat up. Don't beat them up the first day or the second day or their trial week, right? It's still a business, and you got to make sure that people want to come back. If you get 10, you line up 10 guys and you kick their asses day one, half of them are not coming back the next day. Maybe even more than half aren't going to come back. So he said that, and he talked about beating them technically. And I have taken that now, and I remind myself when I'm rolling with somebody. I'm being honest when I say it goes through my mind. I think about him saying this, and if I'm rolling with somebody that I know that I could just be what fun is it for me as a black belt to just tap a white, a blue, or even a purple belt? So I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna surf. I'm gonna ride them. I'm gonna make them carry my weight. I'm gonna move, and then again I'm gonna beat them technically. And in those times, I might give them a little something, let them sweep me, maybe they just sweep me and I wasn't expecting it. I'm not letting them do anything, but they really got something. So he's definitely one of those guys that he's super fun and funny. He's got a great sense of humor. He loves to joke around on the mat, but I've absolutely taken that. I'm like, just when you add in the word technically, beat up the trial guy technically, show him what you got and what he's going to learn. And I think that's helpful. As a business person, I've never owned a gym. I don't plan on owning a gym. But as a business person, I've always understood beating up the trial guy or the new guy or the white belts, like looking at them as like, food. I'm okay. I'm about to eat. It doesn't help the gym. It doesn't help your coach. It doesn't help you build training partners, right? We've probably heard don't break your toys, right?
Yep.
If you want to call white belts and blue belts, I know you just got your purple belt, so congratulations.
Thank you.
But right, don't break your toys, man. The less white belts you have, the less guys that you're going to help build up, and the fewer training partners you have, the smaller the classes are going to be. And you never want to develop the reputation as that gym that hurts the new guy, right? So, I've really taken all that to heart, and hats off to, guys like Drew and my first coach that have kind of instilled those things into me. I may not always carry myself like that on the mat. People may not know, but this is what's going on in my head, so that people that have trained with me or been like, he used to beat the shit out of me, think back. I didn't just beat the shit out of you and submit you 100 times in a 5 minute. My actual rule for myself is I usually, if I'm rolling with a low belt, I do want to I want to get a tap and I want to get a submission in. First one's for me. And then after that, we're going to roll to the end. And if you can get me, great. I'm not probably going to try to actually submit you until just the last minute. Just even the last 30 seconds. Okay, I look and I'm like, okay, and then I get aggressive and then I might get something, not trying to hurt anybody, but that's just it's not fun. I'm going to beat them up technically after that first submission, if I have control over that. Now, sometimes I'm on the other side of that. I'm saying how I handle the lower belts, but I've been the lower belt, and even at black belt, even the new school that I'm at, there's some tough guys, man. Some days there's 10 black belts on the mat, and, it's going to be tough. Again, I'm new there, but I'm going to get humbled. I am going to absolutely get humbled. Again, on Mondays is their biggest class there. I think I lined up the first day I was there probably with close to 10 black belts, which I've never been in a gym that had 10 black belts that are actively training. Right? That doesn't happen. Hats off to them. I think that's a testament to the type of school they're at, to have guys that have been around that long and love coming there. It's called Coral Springs BJJ. Coral Springs Jiu-Jitsu actually is the name if you search it online, right here on Sample Road in the middle of Coral Springs. And man, it could be a tough mat on when there's an open mat. And we got a lot of gyms from the area that come in. Again, a testament when you see a whole bunch of other gyms coming to your open mats, a testament to the owners and the guys that run the school. That many black belts. I've never been in a school that had many black belts. Again, part of why I'm doing Academies safe is, unfortunately, my second school of the 3 that I've been at, my second school, always wondering why black belts left. Why do we have so few black belts? Why has myself another black belt left? I'm recognizing that that's an important nugget. And even at the new school that I'm at, some of those black belts are cops, or in law enforcement. And again, that's a testament. When you see these guys around, they've checked these guys out. They know that, that they know the stories, that they know what's going on, and they're super comfortable at hanging their hat there and putting their reputation inside of that gym. So,
I think you brought up something important in there, and we can kind of go into why you left your academy, segue it from this. But I talked to Steve Kwan probably about 2-3 years ago from BJJ Mental Models. And one thing he brought up that I thought was very interesting and a good way to look at it is, how many world champion black belts that started jiu-jitsu but never got to that point because they had a bad experience when they first came into the academy, right? That first trial week, that first month, right? The first year, they had a bad experience, which sent them away from jiu-jitsu. I think it's so important to ensure that, like you mentioned in there, the people just starting out, those are going to be, usually the backbone of the academy. The more people you have to train with, the more likely they're going to be more white belts or junior belts in the academy, right?
Absolutely.
And so I think it's so important to ensure that you, not only your black belts, but everyone, all the upper belts and white belts are building a academy like attitude that welcomes people more. My buddy just went to, he left his gym and he was looking for a new one, and he went to an academy and was waiting for the kids class to finish, and it was going to be it was the adults class, and he was watching. I always tell people watch a class first before you join if you're unsure. And he watched it, sat there the entire time, told the owner he was coming, saw the owner, made eye contact with him, sat there for an hour. No one said anything to him. The owner didn't say anything to him until he got up to leave, and he's like, "Oh, hey man, how's it going?" Yeah. And I was like, what a terrible experience. And that's not isolated. That's multiple times that has happened. You know what I mean? How do you as a black belt now ensure that, you're providing that environment as well? Like you mentioned your last academy, but like that obviously has played into you making the academy safe nonprofit and all this stuff. Like how have you built your philosophy about that now?
So there are two parts of that. We'll get into my old school, and I guess we could talk about Academy Safe and why I left there. But I'm going to tell you why I joined the school that I went to, and I hope the guys hear this, and I definitely want to. I'm going to send this to them. My first tournament ever. This is a long story, so forgive me, but there's two parts of this. My first academy. I told my coach I wanted to do the new breed that was coming to town. He was surprised. He was like, okay, well, I guess training's going to have to change, because we were just learning jiu-jitsu moves. And then it was like, okay, I've got to teach you guys how to compete and points and this and that, right? So fast forward, I get to the tournament. My coach is a Marine. He sees a fellow Marine that he knew. That guy was a white belt as well. And we both registered. We were different weights, so we didn't compete against each other, but we both went, and we weighed in. I met him that day, and we wound up just like becoming, Facebook, right? Follow each other on Facebook, chatted here and there. And I double golded at that tournament.
Yeah.
And I got my blue belt right. I got my blue belt in 6 months.
Oh, wow.
I was a blue belt in 6 months, which I know is really fast. But again, I was helping my coach run the school. I was training 2 hours a day for 6 days a week. Think about that for like 6 months of doing that. That's equivalent to most guys' year.
Yeah.
So I went double golded. I think I earned it. I got my blue belt. And I double golded against guys half my age. I was already in my 40s, say half my age. A lot of the guys were like mid-20s, and we were not in the same weight class. And I went in there, and I golded in gi and no gi. So fast forward, his name is Garth. Garth and I had just said hello on Instagram, ran into him at the occasional tournaments, forgotten his name. I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like, it was Facebook friends, right? So when I was looking for a new school 10 years later, I'm looking for a new school, and I said, hey, I want to come by. He's literally right across the street from where I live. I can walk there faster than I can drive there. It's that close. So I go over to the school. I had 3 schools in the area in mind. I walk into his school, not his school, but he's a student there, but a black belt there now, like on the same journey, almost the same timeline. I walk in, and one of the owners, the black belts, comes over. He's like, hey, he sees me in my gi. I got my backpack on. I got my gi pants on. He's like, hey, how can I help you? Oh, I'm a friend of Garth. He's like, oh, purple belt, right? And I'm like, no, I'm a black belt. Oh, he's like, I'm sorry. Come on in, professor. My name is so-and-so. I don't even know if he remembers my name because he's called me professor so many times. I walk into the academy, and the level of respect, I'm not saying anybody needs to kiss my ass, but they have a respect for their black belts that I haven't seen at a gym before. So I walk in. He's like, "Oh, Professor, come on in. My name is Eddie. Blah blah blah. Come around. Hey, Professor, we bring Professor to the back and get him to sign the waiver. Like, if you were a black belt, everybody's Professor, not just the coaches." And it was not. And it was just like, come on in, sign off. Hey, like lots of attention. Like you said, I didn't watch the class. I got on the mat that day. They introduced me. Garth said something about me after the class. Like it was great. I was just like, this is amazing. What a level of respect. That was a Monday class. I went back to the Thursday class. Garth, my friend Garth, was doing the class that day. He was the coach. At the end of the class, he's like, hey, we were showing the move, not the end of the class, but we were showing the move of the day. And he's just like, hey, Professor, do you want to show anything here? I was like, I've actually seen the guys get stuck in this, in this half guard. I go, I got a nice little submission from right here. He's like, go ahead, show. So now second day, I'm helping coach. I was, my shoulder, I had a bad shoulder already. So I did roll that day, but I didn't do a lot of the warm-ups, and I was just helping them do the move of the day. So like, I've been at my school for 10 years. I've never coached a move ever.
Oh, wow.
Ever have I ever been asked to coach, and not because of me. The coach was like, I'm the coach and nobody else basically speaks.
Yeah.
We have another coach that barely speaks any English, so he don't speak Spanish. So unless you understand Spanish, you don't understand him for the most part. But that's the way that he liked it. It's just kind of like there is one master here, So I'm at the school, and this was most like my first school, which was very open. You can joke around, be respectful, but you could joke around. You could show a move. You could take somebody to the side and help. And I felt it immediately at home. And I was supposed to go to, I said I had 3 gyms in the area that I was going to go to. When I went to the open mat on Saturday, one of those other schools, they come to their open mat. So I was like, oh, he's like, and we go to their open mat sometimes. And I'm like,
that's cool.
Okay, so now I have both of those schools. And the third one, I just didn't wind up visiting. It was so chill, laid back, relaxed, but good jujitsu. And again, a lot of high level people, which I just wasn't experiencing. A lot of their black belts who aren't the owners coach classes. Sometimes the owner would show a move and then he'd be like, all right, bring in another black belt and be like, okay, now show them your favorite version of this or bring it to the next step. It was a great way of teaching. You're getting so much knowledge from a whole bunch of different black belts with different games. So that's why I wound up not visiting another school. And I was like, this is it. I'm home. And they've been great. And I was just talking to them on WhatsApp. There's a black belt. There's a black belt WhatsApp group for all the black belts in there, which is, again, amazing. Sharing knowledge. Hey, listen, we're working on this week. This is great. Who's going to be there? Who's coaching this week? Things like that. And it was completely different than the school that I had been in, which was, kind of like, a dictatorship, basically. There's only one leader. Again, that plays into one of the reasons why I left the school. But I found this school and I feel like I'm at home. And again, I've trained for such a short amount of time there because I had a groin injury, but I feel super comfortable. And I've talked to them the other day. I'm like, I haven't left, guys. I'm here. I'm weight training. I'm building Academy safe while I'm off the mat. I'm going to be back. Don't worry. So that's my story of how I picked my gym. And again, goes back to the level of respect.
Before you go to the next part of it, how awkward was it the first time you got called professor at that academy? Was it like, were you caught off guard with it or?
So my friend, I got promoted with like 4 or 5 other black belts the same day. I think maybe 4 of us total. And somebody else that cross-trained with another gym got his black belt at that gym, but he was like kind of split his time with us, but he got it from another professor. So I think there were like 5 of us. And we kind of call each other professor, and a little bit like tongue in cheek, like, hey, professor, we've come up together. We remember when we were purple and blue, or purple. And again, at this school I've been at was my second school I was at for 8 years. So I came in as a blue, got my purple soon after. So some guys had just come in after COVID and some people were new, but some of us have known each other since I started. And it's kind of, it was always just a little joke. Hey, professor, shaking hands, professor, bumping fists or shaking hands. And but it wasn't new. But it was kind of, it was the first time that somebody outside of my school that didn't know me recognized it. Okay, you're a black belt. You immediately know that you've probably put in close to 10 years, if not more than that. So I think that's where the respect comes from. Like, you've been training for a long time. You deserve that respect. I didn't ask for it, and I would have been fine if he asked me my first name and just called me Milton. But it felt good. Not ego good. It was just like, okay, this is the way these guys do this thing here. When one of the other things I noticed at the school too was, which I just hadn't experienced, if somebody was late, and I guess there might be, I think I've since spoken to them about, this is just a rule that when you come into the gym, if you're not a black belt, brown belt and down, you say hello to every single black belt. You go around and you shake the hand and hello, professor, good evening. What I noticed was I thought it was a rule where if you were late, you had to go around to every black belt before you can start training. But somebody has corrected me and said, no, we were supposed to do it anyway. But not everybody does it when they're on time. They're over there, stretching. But anybody that's coming late, mandate, you go and say hello to everybody before you even get on the mat. So again, it was just different. That wasn't at my other school. When, at my other school, you were just a student. You had a black belt. You lined up at the front of the class now, but there was no level of respect that was taught to the students, an extra layer of respect that now you give this black belt because we've been training together for so long. And maybe it was more that than a mandate from the coach. But yeah, the level of respect that they give their black belts, and then I give the black belts that have been there already, and that I give the black belts that have stripes on their belt. I'm like, all right, this is the guy that I'm going to learn a little something for. And I'm paying attention when we're coaching because I love to coach. I love to teach. So learning, how they do things at the gym are all things that I'm looking to learn myself now at black belt as I get older and it gets a little harder to train and have multiple injuries at the same time. So yeah, I mean, it felt really good. And I really, really feel like I found a good home.
Real quick, let's talk about the importance of salt and electrolytes for a BJJ practitioner. And that's where today's sponsor, Salt Electrolytes, come in. Save 15% off your purchase at saltelectrolytes.com with code ElbowsTight15 at checkout. Once again, that's 15% off at saltelectrolytes.com with code ElbowsTight15 at checkout. Or use the link down below. Now, Salt Electrolytes drink mix is designed for today's warriors, athletes, and those who like to get after it and regularly get sweaty. Whether you're a heavy sweater that we've all seen on Instagram that needs a wet floor sign right next to them whenever they roll, or you're like a normal human being like me who barely sweats at all. With a light, refreshing flavor, salt is great to drink during your workout because it will not coat your mouth that thick, nasty film that some electrolytes drinks out there do. It has the perfect saltiness that's as easily to make you want to drink more, making rehydration a breeze. And salt keeps it simple, guys. There's only 6 different electrolytes with a touch of iodine to help maintain a healthy thyroid. There's no sugars, there's no colors, and there's no BS. So go earn your salt, guys and gals. And save 15% off your checkout at saltelectrolytes.com with code ElbowsTight15 at checkout. That's saltelectrolytes.com with code ElbowsTight15 at checkout to save 15% off. Because your electrolyte drink should work just as hard as you do. Thanks, guys. Go check them out. So you talked a little bit in there. Once again, we'll go to the Academy safe real quick. Sure. But I would just love your opinion because it seems like you've had very traditional, like you mentioned, like I am the coach, I am the professor, to more of a collaborative, everyone has an input, sure, but there's still that mutual respect. Sounds like there's some tradition. What are your views on like this, like Gracie Baja just came out with their online video that everyone's ragging on now about like traditions and things you can and can't do on the mat and whatnot. What are some of the ones that you're good with and some of them that you're like not okay with tradition wise in jiu-jitsu?
So the belt washing, I think is just ridiculous. I wash
for or against.
What's that?
For or against it?
Of course, wash your belt. It's disgusting. It gets dirty. I mean, it's ridiculous. The best. I just talked about this on the podcast again. It's one of the last questions we ask our guests as a little bit of a joke in a quick fire at the end of the podcast. But I was just talking to Todd Fox about this, and he was just like, "Yeah, I don't wash my belt. I came from the world of like." It's the strength is in your belt and you've got the sweat and the blood of your competitors in there. I get that old school. And if you came up like that, it's what right? I came up, my first school, nobody said not to do it. My coach had no opinion. It never even came up. It actually wound up coming up when I started to do the podcast. And one of my training partners was like, you wash your belt? He's an old school guy. He got his black belt a few years before me. He was trained with Pablo Popovich back in the day. It's where Cyborg and Wagner and those guys were, where they used to go to open mats and they trained a lot there. So that's one that I just think is absolutely ridiculous. Although I have not washed my black belt since I got it in December, I do spray it with Lysol and I do spray it with something called Nutrizone. It was a sponsor from the show. They have a liquid that you can spray it with. So I do that. And more so because I'm like, okay, this is my black belt. I'm going to have it for a longer time. So yes, when you wash it, it fades and it could, make it wear and fray a little bit more, but that's the only reason, but I do try to keep it clean. So I think that's ridiculous, but getting into more like the serious stuff on the mat, I just think, especially I'm in one of the meccas of jiu-jitsu. Somebody just wrote an article about Coral Springs, Florida, period, with like the explosion of jiu-jitsu in our area. You could Google it. You can Google it. You'll see it. We're not a huge town, and there's Jiu-Jitsu Academy every half mile. I mean, it's nice, but there is a ton here. You better have a really good school. My point there is going to be though that if you get too traditional on an American audience with so much jiu-jitsu, if you're the one that's just like it's like this and I rule with an iron, that just I don't think that can exist anymore. And I know for a fact that I've had lunch with some of my other my former teammates, and he's listening to what I say. He's listening to the podcast. He's listening to the things that I've said on reasons why I've left, and he's been changing those things. He's like, oh, I didn't know that Milton would want to coach. How would you? I've told you I wanted to coach. You told me you were going to have a training program. What do you mean you didn't know I wanted to coach? I talk about on the podcast all the time how I love to coach and love to train. You see me always volunteering to take the new guy on the trial class, especially if he was a bigger dude like me. I'm 230 easily. Grabbing that big guy and training him and doing Jiu-Jitsu 101, showing like somebody that knew nothing. How do you not know that I would love to coach? Again, no, never like, hey, professor, I'm going to be out, coach the class. He would have his son coach. His son was in his teens, incredible jiu-jitsu. I'm not saying anything, and an incredible coach at 19. But there were times where he could have said, hey, Milt, why don't you coach? Or I'm going to be out, coach the class. Other people had the keys to the facility. Most people did just people had keys to open up. And those would be the people that would line us up and then maybe do an open mat coach. So like little things like that just really turned me off. But the main reason I left the school, I know your question was, things that I don't like. So let me finish that answer. It is that ruling with an iron fist that I just don't think works. Like it needs to be kind of collaborative. It needs to be a community. One of the things that I also didn't like, which I saw at my first school and I'm seeing at this school, is like coaches getting you together outside of jiu-jitsu. But now that I know what was going on, I know now why my coach didn't do that. His wife gets the girls together and they go on trips. They're like I think they're in South America or something post Jiu-Jitsu Con. They went on either a trip to Mexico. They went someplace. I've been seeing all the videos and they always do that every year. But you create this community of people. Yeah. So it's just like we train together. And yeah, I had friends and we would get together, but the coaches not wanting to be part of that, it was odd for the male coaches to not be doing things to like get us together. Let's go out. Let's go watch a UFC. Let's have a Christmas party. Let's have a dinner. Let's have that didn't exist. And when it did, it was just kind of like, hey, at the end of the ceremony, here's some cookies and things like that. All right, get your stuff. All right, come on. Okay, it's late. Everybody get out. So like things like that, I just don't like. I think that there's a community. All of my friends are from jiu-jitsu in Florida, are all from jiu-jitsu. My only friends that I have that don't do jiu-jitsu don't even live in the state. Maybe my producer from the podcast, Bo, is probably the only friend that I have that's involved with jiu-jitsu but doesn't train. Other than that, everybody that I deal with, work with, everybody's jiu-jitsu. So it's got a jiu-jitsu background. So not having that feeling of community, but again, it ties into, I wind up finding out that my former coach had been, it goes back 8 years. I've got stories written down and text messages from people for 8 years where, he's married to his wife, one of the other coach. He was using basically the academy list, the student list as like a Tinder. So he was not only hitting on the students, the female students, but he was hitting on the wives of the male students, the girlfriends of the male students. I've said this before, there's a level of douchebaggery that goes along with you are messaging, you rolled with this guy, he's in his car on the way home, and you're messaging on Instagram, texting with the girlfriend or wife, literally down to asking them to meet up, to go out. To the level of dirtbag that you have to be.
Yeah.
I say it without saying his name or the academy name. I'm being fucking respectful to him in that regard. The level of dirtbag that you have to be to go after the wife of the student that you just rolled with, that I've heard worse, and there's been worse, and there are worse stories about him and obviously other academies. The level of dirtbag that you have to be to try to get away with that. But then that leads to, it makes sense why he never went to parties. It makes sense why he didn't go to a wedding. He would go away on purpose his head coach got married and he went away on a trip. And it makes sense. It makes sense now. He couldn't be in the room with the student and the wife Because what if something was said, or just feeling guilty? So it started to hear those stories, and then they started to get worse and worse. So, we heard on like, okay, he had an affair, or hey, that's not illegal. He didn't touch a kid. Well, who am I to say anything? And a lot of people stuck around because of that. But then the story started to get worse, and pictures being sent, and, things on FaceTime, and it just got worse to a point where I was just like, yeah, I can't be here anymore. I can't be at this place. We were a former Fight Sports Academy that changed their name after all that stuff happened with Fight Sports. If you can remember back, and if you don't, just Google Fight Sports New York Times. You'll see the article about it. Most high profile story that was done on them. But we changed our name after that. I told him, I'm not coming. I'm not training at this gym. If you're going to be Fight Sports, I need to be gone. And he wound up changing the name. And then it turns out that he was just as much of what I call it being a predator. I know it might insinuate sexual stuff. Again, there are other stories that I'm not going to get into until people come out, so that I can point out that's their story, not me repeating somebody's story. But I've talked to people who have experienced or know the cheating and the hitting on students. And, it's one of my very good friends like, this is how he was talking to my wife. Look. And the wife kind of like kept it going while he knew to see how far it would go. And he got to a point where he asked her out, and it wasn't like entrapment or anything, because he was already starting. She says, this isn't right. I see what he's doing. And then she took it to a point where like, yep, it is exactly what it was. He was trying to get me to hang out. And the husband was just like, what a dirtbag. He didn't train with us anymore at that point, but he did come in and do open mats and train. So the coach is trying to hit on the wives, girlfriends, ex-wives, and ex-girlfriends of his students. Let that sink in for a second.
That's crazy.
That is crazy. I have like 8 instances that go back. The stories that have been given either like by the husband, the ex-husband, a parent, the things that have gone on. And now let me say that I've had conversations with students and be like, well, he didn't break any laws. I'm like, again, there are some other stories that are worse that I can't go into, that I hope they're not true. But if we just keep it in the context of him going after students, wives, and family members, and like literally trying to get them to cheat on their
morally, ethically, all that.
It blows my mind that people haven't just en masse left the school, but some people have, including myself. The one thing that I did though was I kicked up a little dust behind me. A lot of people have left and not said anything, and I don't have anything to lose. There were people that were married. There were people that were females that like, nobody's going to believe me. And I was just like, and I mean, people would come to me like, out him on the podcast, talk about it, say something, please do something, because we don't feel like we can. So I was like, what can he do to me? I'm 51 years old. I've got my black belt. I don't need him. I'm probably never going to see another, colored belt promotion. I'll probably be dead before I can get a coral, or so, I'll be so banged up that I might not be training. To be honest, let's call it what it is. Jiu-Jitsu is pretty hard on the body. I have nothing to lose. He can't do. And, I continue to talk about it. I know some of my old training partners aren't happy that I'm talking about it, but we're at odds. I'm like, the level of again, douchebaggery. I like that term. The level of douchebaggery that has shown that you would do this. I can't believe there's just not a freaking beeline of students that have gone, and a lot of the students know. And again, some we're on opposite sides, and it's just like almost talking politics. We're on opposite sides as well. He didn't break any laws, and he's been better now, and now he's not. He swears he's not doing it, and now he goes to church, and now this and that. That's all great, but I know about these 8 stories because people confided in me, because these are people that I train with. What are the other stories that we don't know about? And how many times has he done this where nobody said anything? Or that woman or that student? I know I wound up hearing about like a student left, and now I know why they left. And I've talked to them, and they've like, yeah, I left after that. I'm not going to stay there. But nobody had the platform that I did. Nobody was able to get on a podcast or do their own podcast. And what I did was I got so fed up with it. And there were some things that happened in my own family having to do with let me correct myself. We had a member of the family come out and tell us that she had been sexually assaulted as a child, completely separate from all this. She knew nothing about anything jiu-jitsu related. And it was coincidentally at the same time that some of the fight sports stuff had happened. So when I said I wasn't going to fight sports, it was like, it was already bad. And then I'm hearing this story and I'm like, there's no way I could ever go train at fight sports. Again, there are great fight sports people and training, just the system there that let this happen. And then also help these guys flee to Brazil. The two people that had been accused of statutory rape, both of these guys have left and fled to Brazil, and were they helped, were they not helped? I just couldn't be there. And now this is the second time that the actions of a coach have affected my jiu-jitsu career, my time on the mats. I was there. I tried to stay there. And I'm just like watching my coach teach. And in my mind, thinking about looking at him like, who else is he talking to in this room? Because we have female students. Is he talking to any of these girls? Is he talking to any of my male students, like their wives? And I'm watching him teach a move, and all I'm thinking about is that. And that's when I knew it was out. Because now my happy place is gone. My happy place is now my unhappy place. I'm actually was disappointed in myself I stayed that long, to be honest. So I get it's difficult to leave a gym. And a lot of the girls, they're so tied in with the wife, the female coach, that it's very hard for them to leave. And they've said it. And people have asked me to open a gym. And I'm like, well, I can just open a gym because this guy did something stupid. But I wound up doing something about it besides kicking up dust and making some noise. And I want him to know we're not going to forget about this. We know what you've done. And just because you started going to church doesn't mean that that we've forgiven you. It's almost like an alcoholic going to somebody gets into an accident and, they get a DUI. And before they even go to court, like a famous person, they already put themselves into rehab just to show the court, right? I feel like that's what's going on. I'm going to do this proactively. I'm going to start to go to church. I'm going to change the way I am in the school. But that doesn't mean that there aren't all of these other stories out there. And yeah, maybe over time you can gain some forgiveness. But right now, I just want to I want people to know, again, without saying his name, my fellow students and training partners know, there are other options out there, and don't feel like you're stuck. A lot of people do feel like they're stuck. Either I'm about to get promoted and I don't want to leave. I got to start over at another academy. Well, would that put my belt rank or my belt promotion at risk? These are all valid things. I get it. Again, I was there. I had heard stories. I got my black belt after I had heard some of the more, kind of innocuous stories like, oh, really? Did he really hit on her? I don't know. Somebody said that he hit on her, But post black belt, I just couldn't be there anymore. And then again, besides kicking up a little dust, I said, what could I do? What could I do? I'm not just somebody that all right, I left and it's okay. And to know that it's going on back there without doing anything about it. So we started Academy Safe. It's a nonprofit. It's a 501(c)(3). It's a true nonprofit. Academy Safe Incorporated. I ran the idea past Rob from McDojo, Rob Ingram from McDojo, the guy that founded McDojo. He'd been on the podcast several times, and I reached out to him. I said, am I crazy? Is this something that I can do? And he says, Milt, people have been trying to get me to do this for years. How can I be involved? And I said, listen, I'm going to start this nonprofit. Would you want to be on the board? He was like, absolutely. And what Academy Safe is it's an organization. We are going to be a martial arts registry, not just jiu-jitsu, but a martial arts registry, where we're going to mandate the members of our site, which, we're going to push hard. We're going to go after the Gracie Bajas. We're going to go after American Top Team at the top and be like, this is something that all of your academies can benefit from. And what we're asking them to do is we want every academy to have background checks on ownership and staff, all of your coaches, anybody that's in a room with a kid or a female or any coach, they should have a background check. We also want them to complete the U.S. Center for Safe Sport certification, which, if you don't know what that organization is, it's basically the way I understand it was truly born from the sexual assault the sexual assault period that happened within women's gymnastics. The doctor that went to jail, right? That U.S. Center for Safe Sport, I believe, was founded out of that, and is very much involved with like sports that lead to the Olympics. But anybody can get a certification, including parents, which I recommend. But you can go and it very much, teaches you about grooming, what to watch out for, what coaches should watch out for when seeing things with other coaches, and things that you shouldn't be getting yourself involved with. So having that U.S. Center for Safe Sport certification are the two main things that we want to do. And then, we truly want the academy to be safe. As somebody that had a heart attack going on 8 years ago, I want to know that if something happened to me, that somebody can revive me. So we want first aid, CPR certifications for all staff. defibrillator on premises, and there's actually defibrillator training that they can complete. We haven't fully partnered or signed a contract with this organization yet, but there is an organization that actually provides that service to any company that wants it. So we've now covered 4 of the 7 things that we want people to do. I'll tell you what the 7th is, so right? Background checks, safe sport certification. These 4 certifications centered around CPR and defibrillators, actually having the defibrillator, period, having one in-house. This organization will help you get the defibrillator, train you on it, send people out to make sure that it's, to check it and to certify that it's recharged and things like that, but also certify you on all those things. And then last but not least, and which is something that is near and dear to Rob's heart from McDojo, Rob has been outing black belts for years and fake black belts. So a true lineage or belt check. So that's, I think that's 7 different things that we want to mandate. You absolutely have to have the background checks and the safe sport certification. We want that, that's immediate, and that's easy and it's cheap. And then the other things can come into play. But there was number 8 is, what security protocols you have in place, i.e. cameras. Do you have cameras? There's no reason why a gym shouldn't have cameras to protect themselves and to protect their students, right? That's normal, right? Every business has cameras, right? So you should have cameras in your facility as well. Those things would certify you as academy safe. We're saying things like, is your academy safe, or is my academy safe? It's literally in the logo. It says, is your academy safe? We want that. We want to make sure, is your academy safe? Now we want this to be, what do we really truly want it to be? We want this to be the place that people go to look for an academy or to vet an academy when they're looking to train somewhere. And again, it's not just jiu-jitsu. I'm a jiu-jitsu black belt. You're a jiu-jitsu purple belt, but taekwondo, karate, Muay Thai, wrestling. Wrestling is a martial art. USA Wrestling, for their coaches, they actually do the first 2. They do that already.
Oh, nice.
We have Rob on the board. We have Joe Scargill, who's an active Secret Service agent, who's joined the board as well. So he's our law enforcement guy. It's myself, Roberto Santiago, who has a background in journalism. And my daughter is our recording secretary with non-voting rights. So she's our recording secretary. She's on the board. So there's 5 of us right now running this thing. We've been raising money. If anybody would like to support our mission, they can go to academysafe.org. There's 2 ways to donate. Well, you can first of all learn a little bit more about our mission, but there are 2 ways to donate: via PayPal and or GoFundMe. So both of those links are there. You can, with both of them, set up a recurring donation. If you didn't have a lot of money and wanted to, $5 a month for a year, great, that's wonderful. Or you can, obviously, submit a larger donation. We want that money. We need help with that money to build our full website. That website that I cited, academy.org, is our current landing page with information, social media links, meetings, links to donations. We're blogging. We're talking about sexual assault. We're talking about the things that we want to people to understand while we build the larger site, which is going to be a registry of every academy in the country. And those that have these things done will be able to see what they have done. And if they have everything done that I've listed, those 8 things, we will certify them as academy safe for 1 year. They've got to keep up with their certifications, their background checks. They have to keep up with everything. They have a new coach come in. We got to get them on. Let's get that background check. We want it to be the norm to not only go to this website and look for an academy, but we want it to be the norm for anybody looking for an academy, again, of any martial arts discipline. We want them to ask these questions. Do you do background checks on all your staff? Are my children going to be safe here? Have you done the U.S. Center for Safe Sport certifications? No? Why not? Or do you plan on it? At least those 2, that should just be the standard.
Yeah.
Anybody getting in the room with a kid, or especially with jiu-jitsu, we know jiu-jitsu the best. It is an incredibly intimate sport. I could be rolling with a mom of 3 and we're laying on top of each other. She's got her legs wrapped around me. We're in a very, very intimate sport, and we spar every class. I want to know that I want to at least have weeded out as many creepers as I can. If somebody has a violent background or sexual assaults or things like that, we want them weeded out. They should not be in that room. And if that means that takes away their job, so be it. You shouldn't be on the mat. You should not be on the mat touching a little kid, or rolling with a little kid, coaching a little kid, or coaching a women's class. If you have sexual assault, if you've been convicted of a sexual assault in the past. So that's what we're trying to do. There are a lot of people out there that don't necessarily understand this. They get into martial arts. They don't even know this. This is completely new. I'm just going to ask that anybody watching, if you don't think that this is a good idea, or if you think like, this is way overblown, Google sexual assault martial arts. Scrap
Huge.
it.
It's huge, unfortunately.
Because it's disgusting.
Yeah. It's horrible.
Follow McDojo. Just follow Rob at McDojo Life.
I talked about that with him, and he said that was like probably the hardest part of his job is reporting on all the, horrible things academies are doing to women, children, and you know what I mean?
I just got chills.
Yeah.
I just got chills. He has told me stories. Again, I'm still getting chills. He's told me stories about videos and things that he's gotten from academies around the world. Literally, men gang raping a woman, clearly having their academy names on, like, it's a group of guys wearing their academy gear or shirts or whatever. Like, these guys are in an academy together and they're raping this woman. The stories, the things that he has told me that he sees, it's very, very dark. I had to prepare my staff. So my staff from Black Belt Digital Marketing is running Academy Safe, right? We're running the marketing, we're doing the social, it's a team effort. And until we have staff on Academy Safe, I'm basically donating my company's time to build this. So I do that forever. And that's one of the reasons why we really need some help with donations. It's going to be able to help us, actually get full-time staff that are running it. But yeah, man, I had to prepare my staff. I had to talk with a daughter who is 30 years old and is my right-hand gal. She's going to be running Black Belt Digital Marketing herself one day. I had to prepare her, and her half-sister works for us as well. Not my other daughter, her half-sister from same mom, different dads. And I had to tell them, listen, are you guys okay with this? Because it's going to get dark. It's going to get dark, and you're going to see some really disgusting articles, and you're going to read some really disgusting things. And there's going to come a point where I'm hoping that people can report things to us, and could we have an 800 number, and how would that work? But it gets dark, and it gets dark quickly. So I had to prepare them for that, and they're big girl. They're like, we got it. We'll let you know if we're feeling any type of way about some of the things that we're hearing. But we go from we're doing marketing for plumbers and roofers and things like that, and it's all like, hey, before and after, and show this nice stuff, and it's never been something like this before. So yeah, I had to prepare them for that, but I think they've been doing an incredible job of getting the message out there. Having Rob and, again, Joe Scargill and even Roberto Santiago, having these guys that have proven careers in these parts that we need. Like, I'm the marketing guy. I've been doing this for 18 years. Rob's been doing McDojo for well over a decade. Joe Scargill has 20 plus years in law enforcement, and is just came off the RFK detail. He was on Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s detail. Almost right up until he was through his support behind Donald Trump. So, again, Roberto has written books. He's got pictures with, like, all the famous boxers. Like, his experience goes back in this world. He trains. Everybody trains right now, other than my daughter. Everybody trains in martial arts, very specifically Jiu-Jitsu. But Rob is got belts in multiple disciplines. Roberto does Kung Fu on top of Jiu-Jitsu. Joe is has a wrestling background and coaches both wrestling and jiu-jitsu at his academy in Jacksonville. So, there's a lot of experience here, and we're going to make this happen. We don't need to raise $1 million to make this happen. I don't need to raise a dime to make it happen. We can make it happen with my company, but it's going to put us out of it. And we need full-time employees. I shouldn't say that. We need full-time employees. So we've got to make this happen. In order for it to grow, we need to continue to raise money. But this has been my new mission. And I was talking to somebody the other day, and I said, I thought I found jiu-jitsu for, like, my own mental health.
Mm-hmm.
It is such a great stress reliever. It gives you that incredible stress release at the end of the day. I feel like I'm a better person because of jiu-jitsu. And I said to somebody, I go, I thought I found it for that reason. And I go, I think that this may be why I found jiu-jitsu. I think that this may be the reason. A new path. I'm still training, besides injuries, I'm still going to train, and I'm still going to be on the mats. But I think that this is the reason that I found jiu-jitsu. There's nobody doing this. Most states, you can Google this yourself. Try to find a list of states that mandate background checks for martial arts academies. It doesn't exist. There is no list. I've looked for it. There are some states that require background checks when you're working with kids, and more local governments that require it. So Jiu-Jitsu academies could fall under that if they have a kids program. But there are no federal or state mandates that I can find that require it for martial arts academies specifically. I have had a few messages here and there. It's like, hey, yeah, I have to do that for my academy, or my city requires that I do. Yes, I know that exists, but there are no state or federal mandates that say every martial arts academy, kids or no kids, has to have background checks or any of the other things that we've listed. I think like down in Florida, you have to have an AED, the defibrillator. My academy has never had defibrillators. And it's like they may get a little note that says, okay, you got to have a defibrillator next time I come, but they don't shut down gyms in Florida because you don't have an AED. So we want to make all these things happen. We want all of these things to be important parts of choosing a gym. And it's like anything. You don't think you need it till you need it.
Yeah.
I had 2 heart attacks, one on a Friday night after training, and then one on Saturday morning when I went back. They were light, what's called a non-STEMI heart attack. My main artery was blocked about 80%. So my heart was struggling to breathe, to get oxygen, right? So your heart kind of fixes itself and moves the blood around the way that it has to. So I wasn't falling on the floor. I didn't pass out. Nobody had to revive me, but I was having chest pain, went back in the morning, trained again, same chest pain. My wife at the time made me go to the hospital, and we found out you're having a heart attack right now.
Holy crap.
So, thinking back, what if I had passed out on the mat? Would anybody have been able to revive me? Would anybody have been able to, after the heart attack, I mentioned to my coach, and he wound up getting an AED. I mentioned it to him. You don't have an AED around here? And he wound up getting one a few months later. But I've trained in 2 gyms down here. They didn't have a defibrillator. My new school has one. And then the other side of it is, great, you have one. Is everyone trained on it?
Yeah. Do they know how to use it?
It's important. It's important. And do you know the difference between the pads that have to go on an adult versus a child? There are new ones where that doesn't play in. So there are all these other things that wind up having, come into play. But we're trying, we want a safer Jiu-Jitsu academy. We want people to know that when they bring their kids to an academy that they can feel safe. But I'm going to say this. I said this I did the Biz Jitsu podcast last week. And one of the things I said was, regardless of everything that we're talking about, if you're a parent and you can stay in the gym, in the academy while your kids are training, do it. Take that 1 hour. I know, work and phones, and I can go grab groceries while they're here. I get all that. I know that everybody can't. But if you can, have an older brother, an older sibling, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, somebody should stay in that academy. I don't care if their academy safe or not. You should be there, because it only takes another student. We can't do background checks on every student. It takes one student, one adult, somebody that comes into the academy that just doesn't look right, doesn't belong there. Just stay with your kid if you can. I know how difficult that is. I know that that's easier said than done. Absolutely understand that. But that's absolutely one way you can make sure that your kids are safe in the environment. And they're not going to come to you with some story down the road like, hey, Mom, I got to talk to you about something that happened at the academy. So regardless of what we do, we can't be in every academy. We're not looking at footage from every security camera or anything like that. But we can do what we can do. Parents and students, practitioners have to do their part as well.
Yeah. Well, Milton, it's been a phenomenal conversation, man. I'm super excited for you and excited to see where this Academy Safe goes. It's a great conversation about basically building that environment and making sure that, the community is safe and everything like that. So I appreciate your time. I'd like to end the show with the same question every single time. If you could give one piece of advice to a brand new white belt, what would it be?
Run.
Like away from the academy or for cardio?
Turn around and run. No, I have made that joke before. I don't candy coat it. Especially when it's an older player. I am an advocate for Jiu-Jitsu. I think Jiu-Jitsu is an incredible sport. The one thing that I would tell, especially somebody a little bit older, because kids are super resilient, their bodies bounce back. For adults that are starting Jiu-Jitsu, absolutely have a good recovery plan in place, meaning you should be stretching at home before you go to the academy. Stretching on the mat before you leave, massage gun, yoga, physical therapy or massages. If you want to last on the mat, you should be doing all of these things. At the end of the day, it's a lot about inflammation. We hear about inflammation. I mean, right? Things get inflamed inside of your body, and this is where our pain comes from for the most part. I'm not a doctor. I'm just kind of repeating what I hear from other people. But you should have a very, very good recovery. As an adult, you should have a really, really good recovery plan. Listen to your body. I know that a lot of coaches will tell you, come on, get on the mat. Like even I'm saying like I'm training with injuries because I'm a complete idiot. And this is not going to get better for a long time. My knee is not going to, but wrap it up, put something on it, and get on the mat. But do not let anybody push you to be on the mat when you're not ready. So let yourself recover. Jiu-Jitsu is not going anywhere. It'll be there. Like I said earlier in the show, if you can't train, do something else. Walk, go to the gym and lift. Go to the academy and help out. Hey, coach, listen, I'd like to help out in the class. I can't roll. My shoulder's banged up. So you can be there, but don't push yourself because the injury is only going to get worse. So good recovery plan, and don't let anybody push you and make you feel like, oh, well, I can push through this injury. Know your body. Don't let anybody push you, and make sure you're not always going to be 100%, but make sure you really feel like you're ready to train. Don't let anybody push you too far.
Perfect. If you want to follow you and all your entrepreneurship, where can they find your stuff at?
Sure. So let's start out with Academy Safe. It's the thing that I'm pushing right now. I'd really like people to help us out. And that doesn't mean you have to give money, but if you could just share the mission, go on to our Instagram at Academy Safe. On Facebook, it's actually facebook.com/academysafe.org. You can add the dot in there in that URL. Really, I'm talking about it a ton on my podcast, Jiu-Jitsu Dummies. So at Jiu-Jitsu Dummies on Instagram is where we thrive. And then, my main job during the day is Black Belt Digital Marketing. So that's at Black Belt Digital Marketing on Instagram. You can find everything at any of those Instagram pages. It'll lead you to everything else. I work with, my day job is working with companies, helping them get more local business primarily. That's kind of, we're like local marketing experts. So helping their Google business profile get found, helping them run Google ads and things like that. It has actually all of these things tied together for me. I started the podcast before I had the marketing company. So I didn't start it for that, but I get listeners that own businesses that are jiu-jitsu practitioners coming to us with their business. They might be a doctor, a dentist, an attorney, and it's turned into that for us. So everything ties together for me. So if you're listening to the podcast, this podcast, or you listen to mine, I'm always talking about Black Belt, giving tips on marketing, on things you can do for your own marketing. But that's how everything ties together. And again, now Black Belt is essentially running everything for Academy Safe, the back end, the marketing, the social media, while we get it off the ground. I feel very, very lucky that I can do that. We were able to get Academy Safe up in 30 days from the launch and registration to everything that we needed to do to be able to raise money with the IRS and the Florida state government. In 30 days, we had everything up and running, and we had a GoFundMe up, with done with proper certification. So I couldn't have done any of this without Black Belt. So I feel very proud of, having built Black Belt to a point where it could do something like this. So again, if anybody really wanted to focus and help us, Academy Safe, check it out.
Cool. Well, Milton, I appreciate it. Make sure you guys go follow Milton and all of his businesses down below. Check out Academy Safe. If you guys are still here by the end of it, let me know what your culture and your academy is like. What's your pros and cons? And go ahead and comment it down below. And thank you guys so much for listening and watching. And we'll catch you later. Remember, no oil checks here. Peace.